Chosen one. Something has shifted in the unseen the moment you chose silence, and now what you cannot see is reacting louder than anything you ever said. This is not just absence, this is a spiritual disruption, and heaven has drawn you here to understand it. You did not find this message by scrolling. This encounter was arranged because your spirit has stepped into a new level of authority, and not everyone connected to your past can survive it. Anointed One. What you call silence is actually separation, and separation is sacred. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 reminds us that there is a time to keep silence and a time to speak. You have entered the moment where your silence is speaking on your behalf. It is exposing, unsettling and dismantling what once fed on your reactions. There are those who expected access, expected emotion, expected control, but your withdrawal has become their confusion. What they once managed through your presence, they now must face alone. And this is where divine alignment begins. Because when you remove yourself, God repositions you. When you go quiet, heaven goes to work. If this resonates in your spirit, stay connected, because what you are about to hear will reveal why your silence is not weakness, but power being activated. Chosen One. Something you may not have fully realized yet is this: your silence did not just create distance, it created exposure. The moment you stopped responding, something in the spirit shifted, and now what was hidden is being forced into the light. Anointed One. There was a time when you felt constantly unsettled, like your peace could be interrupted at any moment. You remember it. That tightness in your chest for no clear reason, the overthinking late at night, replaying conversations in your mind, wondering what you should have said differently. It felt like anxiety, but it carried a deeper weight. It was as if you were carrying something that did not belong to you. And here is the truth you are now waking up to. You were never just dealing with a person, you were entangled in a cycle that fed on your responses. Every time you explained yourself, something in them gained ground. Every time you tried to make peace, something in them remained restless. You thought you were resolving tension, but in reality, you were sustaining it. That is why nothing ever truly changed. But then you did something different. You stopped. You did not send the message. You did not defend yourself. You did not try to fix what refused to be healed. And in that moment, you unknowingly stepped into a higher form of authority. There is a reason Isaiah chapter 30 verse 15 says that in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. You are now living that scripture, not as theory, but as experience. Because what happened next was not random. The noise inside you began to settle. At first, it felt unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable. You were so used to chaos that peace felt like something was missing. You found yourself waiting for disruption, expecting something to go wrong, bracing for a message that never came. That is how deeply the cycle had conditioned you. But slowly something began to lift. The mental fog started clearing. Your thoughts became your own again. Your emotions were no longer reacting, they were stabilizing. And without even trying, you began to feel something you had not felt in a long time. Control. Not control over others, but control over yourself. And that is exactly what disrupted them. Because while you were gaining clarity, they were losing it. Chosen One. Understand this clearly. People who relied on your reactions cannot function in your silence. When your voice disappeared, so did their leverage. When your emotions became unavailable, so did their influence. They expected a response. They expected you to come back. They expected one more explanation, one more emotional opening, one more opportunity to pull you back into the cycle. But instead, they were met with something they were not prepared for: stillness. And stillness to someone who feeds on reaction feels like loss. Now they are searching for signals where there are none. Checking, wondering, asking questions in indirect ways, trying to understand what changed. But what they cannot grasp is simple. You did not change overnight. You awakened. And once awareness enters, old patterns lose their power. There is a moment in every chosen life where what once felt normal suddenly feels heavy, misaligned, even draining. You may not have had the language for it at the time, but your spirit recognized it. That discomfort you felt before going silent, that was not confusion. That was clarity trying to emerge. And now that you have stepped out of that cycle, something irreversible has taken place. You are no longer participating in what once drained you. But here is where it becomes even more important, because this is the stage where many are tempted to go back, not because they want the chaos, but because the silence exposes everything. There may be moments where a thought crosses your mind. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should say something. Maybe I should just check in one last time. It can feel subtle, almost innocent. But look deeper. That is not peace calling you back. That is the echo of the old connection trying to re-establish access. And je moet bedrekken het for what it is, because not every urge is truth. Not every thought deserves action. There is a difference between compassion and compromise, and you are being asked to discern it now more than ever. Chosen one. Your silence is not punishment. It is protection. It is the boundary your spirit needed long before your mind understood it. And right now, whether you realize it or not, you are standing at a critical point in your journey. Because what you do next will either preserve your freedom or slowly reopen what was finally closing. And this is where many lose the breakthrough they were so close to securing. Chosen one. What makes this moment so decisive is not what you walked away from, but what is now being revealed because you did. Silence does not just create distance, it removes distraction, and once the distraction is gone, truth begins to surface in ways that cannot be ignored. You're starting to see clearly now, not just what they did, but how it affected you. There were patterns you tolerated, emotions you carried that were never yours, and a level of tension that became so normal you stopped questioning it. You adjusted yourself to survive, something that was never meant to be sustained. That is why, when you stepped out, your entire system began to recalibrate. Your body is responding differently, your mind is quieter, your spirit is no longer on constant alert. This is not random. This is what happens when a burden is finally lifted. At the same time, something else is happening on the other side of your silence. What once had access to you is now confronted with absence, and absence forces reflection. They can no longer redirect the focus onto you. They can no longer provoke a reaction to justify their behavior. Without your engagement, the narrative they created starts to collapse under its own weight. And when that happens, discomfort follows. There is a kind of restlessness that comes when control is lost. It does not always look obvious on the outside, but internally it begins to unravel a person. They start replaying moments, questioning outcomes, trying to understand why their usual methods are no longer working. What they once depended on is no longer available, and they do not have a replacement for it. This is why your silence feels louder to them than any words you could have spoken. You may not see it directly, but the shift is real. The dynamic has changed, and with that change comes pressure. Not pressure on you, but pressure on everything that was built around your participation. Without your energy sustaining it, the structure begins to weaken, and when something is built on imbalance, it cannot stand once the balance is removed. This is why you must remain grounded in what you have already recognized. There is a reason your spirit led you to step back. There is a reason you felt that inner resistance to continue engaging. It was not confusion, it was discernment. You were being guided out of something that no longer aligned with your growth, even if your emotions had not fully caught up yet. And this is where the test often comes, not in the form of chaos, but in the form of subtle invitations back into what you left behind. It can come through a memory, a moment of loneliness, or even a small opening that seems harmless. The mind has a way of romanticizing what the spirit already released. It highlights the good and softens the reality, creating a version of the past that feels easier to return to. But you must remember the full picture, not just the moments that felt comfortable, but the weight that came with them. Not just the connection, but the cost, because growth requires honesty, and honesty protects you from repeating what you have already outgrown. Anointed One, you are not being asked to harden your heart, you are being asked to guard it. There is a difference. Guarding your heart does not mean you stop caring. It means you become selective about where your care is invested. It means you recognize that not every connection is meant to be maintained, no matter how deep it once felt. There is also something deeper taking place within you. Your identity is shifting. You are no longer the version of yourself that tolerated confusion in the name of connection. You are becoming someone who values clarity, peace, and alignment. And with that shift comes a natural separation from anything that cannot meet you at that level. This is not loss. This is refinement. There are moments in life where what leaves creates space for what is meant to enter. But that space must remain clear. If you keep reopening the door to what was removed, you delay what is trying to arrive. And right now, there are things aligning for you that require a different version of you to receive them. Opportunities, connections, and even provision begin to flow more freely when your energy is no longer divided. What once felt blocked starts to move. What once felt delayed begins to accelerate. Not because something outside suddenly changed, but because you did. You removed yourself from what was draining you, and now your capacity is being restored. This is how alignment works. It is not always loud or immediate, but it is steady and intentional. One decision leads to another, and before you realize it, you are standing in a place that once felt out of reach. But it all begins with what you choose to maintain and what you choose to release. Right now, you are in the middle of that process. The separation has happened, but the full transformation is still unfolding. And what you do in this space will determine how smoothly that transition takes place. Because there is still something you need to understand about why this silence is affecting them the way it is, and why the more you remain still, the more unsettled they become. Chosen One. What you are witnessing now is not just emotional reaction, it is the unraveling of a pattern that depended on your participation to survive. There is a deeper principle at work here, one that many never come to understand, and that is this: when a cycle is built on imbalance, it requires one person to stay unaware in order to continue. The moment awareness enters, the cycle begins to collapse. You were once positioned in a place where you carried more than your share. You explained more, you felt more, you gave more, and without realizing it, you compensated for what was lacking on the other side. That imbalance created a rhythm, and over time that rhythm became predictable. They knew how you would respond, when you would respond, and how far they could push before you would try to restore peace. It was not always intentional in a conscious sense, but it became a learned dynamic. Now that rhythm is broken. And when a pattern breaks without warning, it creates confusion. Not clarity, not understanding, but confusion. Because the expectation no longer matches the reality. They are still operating from the old script, but you are no longer playing your role in it. That disconnect is what creates the tension they are now experiencing. You have to understand something important here. People who are used to having emotional access do not process silence the same way healthy individuals do. Instead of interpreting it as closure or distance, they interpret it as disruption. It interrupts their sense of control, their sense of familiarity, and their ability to predict what comes next. And when predictability is removed, discomfort increases. This is why your silence feels so intense to them. It is not because of what you are doing now, but because of what you are no longer doing. The absence of your response has more impact than any response you could have given. It leaves a gap that cannot be easily filled, and that gap forces them into a position they are not used to being in. Reflection. But reflection for someone who's avoided it does not feel peaceful. It feels confronting. It brings up questions they would rather not ask and thoughts they would rather not face. Without your presence to redirect their focus, they are left with their own internal dialogue. And that is often where the real discomfort begins. You may not see this externally. In fact, outwardly they may appear unaffected, distracted, or even dismissive. But internally, something is unsettled because the one variable they relied on is no longer consistent. And when consistency disappears, it creates instability in the pattern they depended on. This is also why you may feel moments of pull, moments where your mind drifts back, or where you sense a subtle urge to check, to respond, or to reconnect. It is not always emotional attachment in the way you think. Sometimes it is simply the residual effect of a pattern that has not fully dissolved yet. Patterns do not disappear instantly. They fade over time as new behaviors replace old ones. And in that in-between space there can be moments of tension, moments where the familiar tries to reassert itself, even if it no longer serves you. This is where your awareness becomes your anchor. You are not where you used to be, even if part of you still remembers it. You are not responding the same way, not thinking the same way, not engaging the same way. That shift is already proof that something fundamental has changed within you, and because you have changed, the outcome will change, but only if you remain consistent. Inconsistency is what reopens cycles. It creates mixed signals, not just for the other person, but for yourself. One moment of returning to the old pattern can reignite something that was already losing its hold. That is why this stage requires clarity, not just in thought, but in action. You are not maintaining silence to prove a point. You are maintaining it because it aligns with who you are becoming. There is a difference between reaction and intention, and what you are doing now is intentional. Anointed One, there is also a deeper layer to this that connects to your future, not just your past. When you remove yourself from what drains you, you do not just create peace, you create capacity. Capacity for clarity, for growth, for opportunity, and for connections that do not require you to diminish yourself in order to maintain them. You may not fully see it yet, but things are already shifting in your favor. Your energy is no longer tied up in confusion. Your focus is no longer divided. And when your focus becomes clear, your direction becomes stronger. There are decisions you will make differently now. Boundaries you will hold more firmly. Standards you will not compromise on. And all of that will begin to shape the path ahead of you in ways that feel more aligned, more stable, and more purposeful. This is how elevation begins. Not through sudden external change, but through internal alignment that gradually reflects outward. And while you are moving forward, they are still trying to understand what changed. That difference in movement is what creates the gap, a gap that will continue to widen the more you remain grounded in your decision, and the more they remain attached to a version of you that no longer exists. But there is still one more layer you need to see clearly, because what is happening in their mind right now is not just confusion, it is something much deeper that explains why your silence feels almost unbearable to them. Chosen One. What is truly unsettling them is not just your absence, but the loss of access to your inner world. There was a time when your thoughts, your feelings, and your reactions were visible to them. Even when things were not stable, they could still read you, still anticipate you, still reach you. That access created a sense of control, whether they acknowledged it or not. And now that door is closed. When access is removed without warning, it creates a kind of internal imbalance. They are no longer able to confirm what you feel, where you stand, or how much influence they still have. And for someone who relied on that awareness even subtly, this becomes deeply unsettling. It leaves them guessing, and guessing creates tension. This is where your silence becomes powerful in a way that words never could. Words can be debated, twisted, reinterpreted. Silence cannot. It does not offer material to manipulate. It does not provide an opening to redirect the narrative. It simply stands as it is, and that lack of engagement forces everything back onto them. You may not realize it, but your silence has shifted the focus entirely. What used to be projected onto you now has nowhere to go. The assumptions, the justifications, the narratives that once involved you now have to stand on their own. And when something is unsupported, it begins to weaken. This is why they may seem restless in ways that do not make sense. It is not always about missing you in a genuine way. It is about the disruption of a pattern they depended on. The familiarity is gone, and without it, they are left trying to reconstruct something they no longer have access to. At the same time, you are experiencing the opposite effect. Where there was once noise, there is now space. Where there was once tension, there is now room to breathe. And in that space, something important is happening. You are beginning to reconnect with yourself. That reconnection is subtle at first. It shows up in small ways: the way you respond to your own thoughts, the way you sit in stillness without immediately trying to fix something, the way your energy is no longer pulled in multiple directions. These are not small changes. They are indicators that you are returning to your center. And once you return to your center, your decisions begin to reflect that stability. This is why going back becomes less appealing over time. Not because you have forced yourself to move on, but because what you left no longer aligns with what you are becoming. The distance is not just physical or emotional, it is structural. You are operating from a different place now. Anointed One, there is also something else you must understand. When someone loses access, they often try to regain it indirectly. Not always through direct communication, but through subtle means. Curiosity, indirect questions, small attempts to re-establish connection without fully acknowledging the distance that has been created. This is not always intentional manipulation. Sometimes it is simply the mind trying to restore what feels incomplete. But regardless of the intention, the effect is the same. It creates an opening. And that opening, if not recognized, can slowly undo the clarity you have gained. This is why awareness must remain active, not just in moments of strength, but also in moments of vulnerability. Because it is often in quiet moments when you feel calm or reflective that the past can seem less intense than it actually was. The mind smooths the edges, softens the impact, and presents a version that feels easier to revisit. But clarity requires you to remember accurately, not selectively. You did not step away without reason. You did not create distance without cause. There were patterns, behaviors, and dynamics that led you to this point, and honoring that truth is what keeps you aligned with your decision. There is also a deeper layer of growth happening that goes beyond this specific situation. You are learning what it means to hold a boundary without explanation, to choose peace without needing validation, to move forward without needing closure from someone who could not give it to you in a healthy way. That is a level of maturity that not everyone reaches, and once you reach it, your perspective changes. You begin to understand that closure is not something given by another person. It's something created by your own decision to stop engaging with what disrupts your peace. This is where your strength is being refined. Not in how much you can endure, but in what you choose to no longer tolerate. Chosen One, there is also something unfolding in your future that requires this version of you, a version that is not easily pulled back into old dynamics, a version that recognizes alignment and moves toward it without hesitation. Because what is coming into your life next will not require you to question your worth or your place, but to receive that you must remain consistent in what you have already begun. Consistency builds trust, not just with others, but within yourself. It reinforces the understanding that you can rely on your own judgment, your own awareness, your own sense of direction. And that internal trust becomes the foundation for everything that follows. Meanwhile, on the other side, the uncertainty continues. Because without access, without clarity, without confirmation, they are left trying to interpret silence that was never meant to be explained. And that is where the real tension lies. Not in what you said, but in what you chose not to say. Because what you withheld was not just words, it was access, energy, and presence. And the absence of those things is forcing a reality they can no longer avoid. Chosen one. There is something even deeper unfolding that you must not overlook, because what you are experiencing now is not just separation, it is restoration. When you removed yourself from that environment, you did not just create distance from them, you created space for yourself. And in that space, things that were suppressed are beginning to rise back to the surface. You are starting to feel like yourself again, but in a way that is more aware, more grounded, more intentional. There was a version of you before all of this, a version that was clear, focused, and at peace, in ways that now feel unfamiliar, yet deeply right. That version was not lost, it was buried under the weight of constant emotional demand, and now that the pressure is gone, it is returning. This is why your energy feels different. You are not as reactive. You are not as easily pulled into emotional loops. You are not overanalyzing every small detail, trying to find meaning in things that never had clarity to begin with. Instead, you are observing more, speaking less, and choosing where your attention goes with greater care. That shift is not small. That shift is everything. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. And for a long time your attention was tied to something that kept you in a cycle of confusion. Now that your attention is no longer there, your life is beginning to move in a different direction. This is where alignment begins to take form in a very real way. Opportunities that once felt blocked begin to open. Not because the external world suddenly changed, but because your internal state did. You are no longer operating from depletion, you are operating from clarity. And clarity changes how you respond, how you decide, and what you attract. Anointed One. There is also a principle here that connects directly to your purpose. When your energy is entangled in the wrong place, it delays what is meant for you. Not because what is meant for you is not available, but because you are not fully available to receive it. Your focus is divided, your capacity is limited, and your discernment becomes clouded. Now that you have removed that interference, your capacity is increasing. You may start to notice ideas coming more easily, a sense of direction that feels stronger, a desire to build, to create, to move forward in ways that feel purposeful instead of reactive. This is not coincidence. This is what happens when your energy is no longer being drained by something that doesn't return it. At the same time, there may still be moments where you feel the weight of what you walked away from. Not because you want to return, but because you are processing what you have finally allowed yourself to see. Healing is not always immediate. It unfolds in layers, and each layer brings a deeper level of understanding. You may recognize things now that you did not see before. Patterns that once felt normal now stand out clearly. Behaviors you once excused now feel unacceptable. This is growth. And growth often comes with a level of realization that can feel heavy at first. But that weight is not meant to hold you back. It is meant to anchor your awareness so you do not return to what you have already outgrown. Chosen One. There is also something happening in how you value yourself. When you step away from something that required you to overextend, you begin to understand your own worth in a different way. Not through validation from others, but through the boundaries you set for yourself. You begin to see that your time, your energy, and your presence are not things to be given freely without consideration. They are valuable. And once you recognize that value, you naturally become more selective about where they are invested. This is where your standards begin to rise, not out of pride, but out of clarity. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself, to explain yourself, or to convince anyone of your intentions. You understand that the right people will recognize your value without needing to be persuaded, and those who cannot see it are not meant to hold a place in your life. Meanwhile, on the other side, the absence of your presence continues to create pressure. Because what they once had access to is no longer available, and what they are left with does not provide the same depth or consistency. They may try to fill that gap with distractions with other people, with temporary solutions. But what was unique about your presence cannot be easily replaced. Not because you were perfect, but because you were genuine, and genuine connection carries a weight that surface interactions cannot replicate. This is why the contrast becomes more noticeable over time, and as that contrast grows, so does the realization. But that realization is not yours to manage. You are not responsible for how they process your absence. You are not responsible for how they interpret your silence. Your responsibility is to remain aligned with what you have already recognized as true. Anointed One. This is where many people falter, not in the initial decision to walk away, but in maintaining that decision when the emotional intensity fades. When things feel calmer, when the urgency is gone, there can be a temptation to revisit what no longer feels as overwhelming. But calmness is not confirmation that something was right. It is often the result of distance from what was wrong, and confusing the two can lead you back into the very cycle you worked to leave. This is why you must stay grounded in your awareness, not just your feelings, because feelings can shift, but truth remains. You have already seen what needed to be seen. You have already felt what needed to be felt. And that understanding is what guides you forward. There is also something else approaching, something that will require this version of you to fully step into it. It will not come with confusion or instability. It will come with clarity, consistency, and alignment. But to recognize it, you must not be entangled in what you have already released. Chosen One. Your silence is not just closing a chapter, it is preparing you for the next one, and what is ahead will not require you to question your peace, because it will be built on it. Chosen One. There is a dimension of this journey that goes beyond emotional healing and personal clarity, and it is the moment where you begin to recognize that what you walked away from was not just draining you, it was delaying you. Not in an obvious way, not in a way that could be easily measured, but in the quiet accumulation of time, energy, and attention that was being redirected away from your true path. You may not have seen it while you were in it, because when something becomes part of your routine, it no longer feels like a disruption. It feels normal. The constant thinking, the emotional processing, the attempts to stabilize something unstable, all of that became integrated into your daily life. And because it was consistent, you adapted to it. But now that you are out of it, you can see the contrast. You can feel the difference in how you wake up, how you move through your day, how you think about your future. There is less noise, less pressure, less urgency to fix something that was never yours to fix. And in that reduction of noise, your direction becomes clearer. This is where divine alignment begins to accelerate. When your energy is no longer divided, your focus sharpens. When your focus sharpens, your decisions improve. And when your decisions improve, your path begins to open in ways that once felt blocked. This is not about luck or coincidence. This is about positioning. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 reminds us that there is a time for every purpose under heaven, and what you are stepping into now is a different time, one that requires a different version of you. A version that is no longer entangled in what distracts, but fully present in what is being built. Anointed One, there is also a shift happening in how you relate to yourself. You are no longer seeking constant reassurance. You are no longer questioning your instincts the way you once did. Instead, there is a quiet confidence forming, one that does not need to announce itself, but is felt in the way you carry yourself. You trust your perception more. You trust your decisions more. And that trust becomes the foundation for everything that follows. Because when you trust yourself, you do not easily return to what compromised you. You begin to recognize early signs of misalignment. You notice subtle inconsistencies that you once overlooked. You respond to discomfort sooner rather than waiting until it becomes overwhelming. These are not small adjustments. These are indicators that your awareness has deepened. And with deeper awareness comes stronger boundaries. Not rigid, not defensive, but clear. You know what you will accept and what you will not. You know what aligns and what does not. And because of that clarity, you move differently. You engage differently. You invest your energy differently. Meanwhile, the contrast continues to grow. Because while you are moving forward with intention, they are still trying to interpret what has already changed. The gap between where you are and where they are continues to widen, not because you are trying to create distance, but because your direction is no longer the same. This is where the final layer of release begins to take place. Not just physically, not just emotionally, but mentally. You stop revisiting the same thoughts. You stop analyzing the same situations. You stop searching for answers that no longer matter. And in doing so, you free up even more space within yourself. That space is not empty. It is being filled. Filled with clarity, with purpose, with a sense of direction that feels steady instead of uncertain. You begin to think about your future in a different way, not as something you are hoping for, but as something you are actively building. Chosen one. This is where provision begins to align with purpose. When your focus is clear and your energy is available, opportunities begin to meet you in a different way. Not forced, not chased, but encountered. You recognize them when they appear because your mind is no longer clouded by what does not belong. And this is how elevation happens, not in a single moment, but in a series of aligned decisions that move you steadily forward. You may not see the full picture yet, but you can feel the direction. And that feeling is not random. It is the result of everything you have chosen not to return to. There is also a sense of peace that is becoming more consistent, not temporary, not dependent on external circumstances, but steady. It shows up in how you rest, how you think, how you respond. It is not something you have to force. It is something that naturally emerges when your environment is no longer working against you. This is what you protected when you chose silence. Not just your time, not just your energy, but your peace. And that peace is now becoming the foundation for what comes next. Anointed one, there is something ahead of you that requires this level of clarity, something that cannot be built on confusion or sustained through inconsistency. It will require presence, focus, and a willingness to move forward without looking back. Because looking back now would not bring understanding. It would only create distraction. You have already crossed a threshold, whether you fully recognize it or not. The version of you that existed within that cycle is no longer who you are, and because of that, returning would not feel the same, even if the circumstances appeared familiar. That is how you know the shift is real. And as you continue forward, there is one final truth you need to anchor yourself in, because it will determine how firmly you stand in this new space you have entered. Chosen one. The final truth you must anchor yourself in is this: your silence was not the end of something valuable. It was the confirmation that you finally chose what is valuable. There is a difference, and understanding that difference is what will keep you steady as everything continues to unfold. You're not losing anything that was meant to remain. What you released could not align with where you are going, and what could not align had to be removed. That is not rejection, that is redirection. That is not abandonment, that is protection. And once you truly accept that there is nothing left to question, because what is meant for you will not require you to abandon yourself to keep it. Anointed One, there comes a moment in every chosen life where the need for explanation falls away. Not because you do not have the words, but because you no longer feel the need to use them. You understand that your peace is not something to negotiate, your boundaries are not something to defend endlessly, and your growth is not something that requires approval. This is that moment for you. You have stepped into a level of clarity where silence is no longer uncomfortable. It is natural. It is steady. It is aligned. You are not holding back words, you simply have nothing left to prove. And that is where true freedom begins. Because when you are free, you do not feel pulled in opposing directions. You do not feel obligated to revisit what has already been resolved within you. You do not feel the need to reopen doors just to confirm that they should have been closed. You move forward with certainty even if others do not understand it, and they will not understand it. Not because it is complicated, but because it requires a level of awareness they have not reached. They are still trying to interpret your silence from the perspective of who you used to be. They are expecting a reaction based on patterns that no longer exist. And because those patterns are gone, nothing makes sense to them. But it makes sense to you now. You see the difference between connection and attachment. You see the difference between care and control. You see the difference between what felt familiar and what is actually aligned. And once you see those differences clearly, you cannot unsee them. This is why your silence feels permanent, not forced. You are not waiting for the right moment to speak. You are not preparing a final message. You are not holding on to something unfinished. You've already completed what needed to be completed within yourself. That is closure, not a conversation, not an explanation, but a decision. Chosen One. There is also something sacred about what you have protected. Your peace is not just a personal state, it is a foundation. It is what allows you to think clearly, to move wisely, and to build something that is not constantly interrupted. And that foundation will support everything that comes next. Because what is coming next will require stability. It will require you to be present, to be focused, and to be fully available for what is being placed in your path. And that cannot happen if part of you is still tied to what you have already outgrown. This is why your silence had to be complete. Not partial, not temporary, but complete. Because anything less would leave room for the past to re-enter and disrupt what is being formed. And what is being formed now is not fragile, but it is intentional. It is being built on clarity, on alignment, and on a version of you that understands the value of what you carry. Anointed One, there is also a quiet confidence that is settling into your life now. You may not express it outwardly, but you feel it. It shows up in the way you no longer rush to respond, the way you no longer feel pressured to engage, the way you allow things to be without needing to control the outcome. That confidence is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the result of choosing yourself in a way you may not have done before. And once you experience that, you do not easily return to anything that compromises it. Meanwhile, what you left behind will continue to process your absence in its own way. There may be moments where they try to make sense of it, moments where they attempt to reconnect, moments where they project their own understanding onto what happened. But none of that changes the reality of where you stand. You are no longer available to what disrupted your peace. And that is final, Aesat, Chosen One. This is where your path becomes clear. Not because everything is revealed at once, but because you are no longer divided. You are moving in one direction with one intention, and that consistency will carry you further than anything you left behind ever could. There's no need to look back now. not because the past did not matter, but because it has already served its purpose. You learned what you needed to learn. You saw what you needed to see. And you became who you needed to become in order to move forward. Now what remains is simple. Stay grounded in what you have chosen, stay aligned with what you know, and continue walking in the direction that brings you peace. Because that peace is not just a feeling. It is confirmation that you are exactly where you are meant to be. Chosen one. What has been sealed in your life is not temporary, and what has been broken will not be rebuilt again. You have stepped into a divine moment where your silence is no longer just a decision, it is an alignment with heaven's order over your life. Anointed One, receive this with peace in your spirit. What needed to fall away has already fallen, and what is meant to rise is already being positioned. There are movements happening behind the scenes that you cannot yet see, but they are precise, intentional, and timed according to a higher order. This is your Kairos moment, a divinely appointed window where restoration, clarity, and elevation are quietly taking form. You are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Remain steady. Remain grounded. Let your peace be your confirmation that God is near and actively working on your behalf. As it is written in Exodus chapter 14, verse 14, "The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." That is your portion. If this word has settled in your spirit, take a moment and seal it. Write Amen or 777 in the comments as a declaration that you receive what has been spoken and you are walking in it. And if your spirit recognizes this place of alignment, stay connected so you do not miss what is being released next for your journey. Go forward in stillness, in confidence, and in quiet authority. Your silence is not empty. It is filled with power.